Hi, good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert from BC Training. Throughout October, we are participating in European Cybersecurity Month by raising awareness about cybersecurity. As well as our cyber-themed webinar, we're also offering 20% off the next Managing and Preparing for Cyber Incidents course, which takes place in March next year. To find out more, please visit our website or contact us via phone or email. Anyway, thank you all very much for turning up and listening in today. I notice there's a few friendly names that are on the attendees list. Nice to see people coming in from staying up late at night or getting up early in the morning from Australia and from the States as well. So today's webinar is a beginner's guide to cybersecurity and will be presented by Sadia Anwar, who is a consultant at our sister company, PlanB Consulting. If you'd like to ask Sadia any questions during the webinar, please do so by typing in the question box on the control panel to the right of your screen. The webinar will last a maximum of 50 minutes. Later today, we will email a copy of the webinar over to you. Information about our next webinar will be released in due course once the presenter and subject have been confirmed. So, today we are covering cybersecurity. Sadia is the panelist, so I'll now hand you over to her.
Thank you, Lachlan.
Right, I think you should be in charge, and I'll leave you to it.
Sure. Thank you, Lachlan. So welcome to this business continuity webinar. So it's a beginner's guide to cybersecurity. So as you already know the topic, my name is Sadia Anwar and I am a consultant at PlanB Consulting. I have worked in the industry for almost a year now, and as part of my role, it has been helping clients with cybersecurity. As business continuity professionals, cybersecurity is becoming increasingly relevant to our job. The BCI Horizon Scan report states that organisations view cyber attacks as one of the greatest business continuity threats, which is a key trend I am seeing with my clients also. So I have been learning all about cybersecurity for the past 8 months, and I'd like to share with you all some of the key things I have learned during that time. Many more clients are now requesting training in cyber exercises, as senior management are getting more concerned regarding cyber attacks as they are on the rise, as we can see. So I have helped facilitate many cyber training and exercises within the financial sector, with some clients including a UK private-owned bank and a large international banking group in Lisbon. So before I begin my webinar, I'm going to briefly run through today's agenda. So I have split the webinar into 3 sections, and each section will last roughly between 10 to 15 minutes. So firstly, I will give a brief background to cybersecurity. Secondly, I will discuss what preparations an organisations can do beforehand in order to prepare for a cybersecurity incident. And then I will discuss how to respond to a cybersecurity incident on the day. And by the end of this webinar, I would like you all to have an insight into cybersecurity and take away some lessons which may be useful to your organisations and how to prepare and deal with any cybersecurity incidents. So moving on to the first part of my webinar is cybersecurity background. So the definition of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity consists of technologies, processes and measures that are designed to protect systems, networks and data from cyber crimes. And firstly, I would like to give you some fast facts about cybersecurity. So firstly, statistics show that 93% of all large enterprises were targeted by cyber attacks in 2016 alone. And a UK government survey estimated that in 2014, 81% of large corporations and 60% of small businesses suffered a cyber breach. And I have noticed that many organisations are of the opinion that, no, we're a small organisation or we're a large organisation, no one's going to want our data or want to, we're not prone to cyber attacks. But as you can see from the facts and figures, that is not the case. The UK's the UK's 5.4 million small businesses are collectively attacked more than 7 million times a year. And in the UK, there was 404,000 cases of unauthorised access to personal information from June 2014 to June 2015. So again, that shows the high number of attacks that are on the rise. So on average, it takes about 120 days for a business to know that its data has been compromised. And during that time, your data can be on the dark web, it can be in the media, your clients might have information that they thought would not be shared, but they might have found out from other sources. So again, that shows how long it actually takes a business to find out that their data has been compromised. So cybersecurity incidents, in particular serious cybersecurity attacks such as advanced persistent threats, are now headline news. So as you are aware as well, in the news, ever so often there's new attacks being reported. More organisations are admitting that they're being cyber breached, and they bring serious damage to organisations of all types and to government and international bodies. So the ways to respond to these attacks in a fast, effective and comprehensive manner are actively being deployed at the very highest level in corporate organisations, government bodies and international communities. So again, some organisations are tackling ways to respond to these, but again, there are some who are not taking this seriously enough. So the main difference between different types of cybersecurity incident appears to lie in the actual source of the incident. So, for example, it could be a minor criminal compared to a major organised crime. And also, rather than the type of incident, so for example, it can be hacking, malware, and again, we'll touch upon these later. So at one end of the spectrum comes the basic cybersecurity incidents, such as minor crimes, localised disruption and theft. And on the other end, we can see major organised crime, widespread disruption, critical damage to national infrastructure and even welfare. Furthermore, the nature of attacks is changing from public displays of capability to targeted attacks designed to cause damages to high organisations or government bodies. And again, we will touch upon that later. So, background. So, vital question is, who's doing these cybersecurity attacks? So firstly, script kiddies. I don't know if you've heard this term before, but it is a person who uses existing computer scripts or codes to hack into computers lacking the expertise to write their own. It can be terrorists to gain access to sensitive information to use to their advantage. It can be hacktivist, who is a person who gains unauthorised access to computer files or networks in order to further social or political ends. So I don't know if you are aware of the hacktivist group called Anonymous, who have been responsible for some of the most widely acknowledged cyber attacks with ISIS, the US Department of Justice, Donald Trump, Sony, were some of their high-profile victims that they targeted. So cybercrime can be split into two parts. So cyber-dependent crimes are another group of people who do these type of attacks. So cyber-dependent crimes are offences that can be committed by using a computer networks, or other forms of ICT. So cyber-dependent crimes are acts directed against computers or network resources, although there may be secondary outcomes from these attacks, such as fraud. Cyber-enabled crimes are existing crimes which are perpetrated through the use of the internet. So an example of this could be someone being emailed a cyber scam asking for money, and again, we will touch upon this later. So state and state-sponsored threats, so that's national state hackers are increasingly targeting government institutions, industrial facilities and many businesses with powerful and sophisticated techniques. So in this regard, most of you will be aware of the accusations that Russia tampered with the US election using cyber tactics, and North Korea was also believed to be using such tactics. So they are some of the people who can be behind cyber security incidents. So there are also many vulnerabilities which may exist within your organisations which will result in cyber incident attacks occurring. Firstly, flaws in software which cyber criminals can gain access from. So the key question here is, how are they getting access? Why do those flaws exist? Expanding the range of devices is also another key vulnerabilities. So in this day and age, more organisations are introducing iPads, and again, that's just another mechanism for hackers to gain access. If you lose the iPad, it's just another means. Insufficient training and skills. So employees are not trained to detect cybersecurity incidents and how to report them. Companies are failing to provide their employees with basic cybersecurity awareness training, which leaves their systems wide open to these attacks. Poor cyber hygiene and compliance with regulations is also another vulnerability, as well as legacy and unpatched systems, which again opens up systems to such attacks. The availability of hacking resources is a very interesting one. As hacking resources are becoming more common, your organisation is now more vulnerable to such attacks. Employees who use easy passwords to guess, such as 1234 ABCD, or writing the password down next to the device, again, another key vulnerability. So having discussed the key vulnerabilities, we're now going to go on to discuss targeted and untargeted cyber threats. So untargeted cyber threats may consist of phishing emails, which is a technique used to send emails to a large number of people asking for sensitive information, such as bank details, or encouraging them to visit a fake website. This has happened to me on several occasions, so please be careful of them. Also, you may have received emails asking you to send over bank details as someone has passed away and left you with millions of pounds that you would certainly know if by other means if someone had been so generous to you. Another example of phishing emails is the incident that happened in Ukraine on the 23rd of December 2016. Blackouts hit several parts of the Ukraine, affecting more than 225,000 people, and the hackers are believed to have sent phishing emails to the power companies. It is thought malware in the emails allowed them to steal logins and passwords for vital control systems, and the utility firms had to switch to manual controls. US investigators say a cyber attack was to blame. Waterholding, so that is setting up a fake website or compromising a legitimate one in order to exploit visiting users. And ransomware, which consists of encrypting files and demanding money to gain back access. So an example of this is the WannaCry ransomware attack, which you all may have heard of. So in May 2017, worldwide cyber attack by which targeted computers who were running and using the Microsoft Windows operating systems, they were attacked, and the attackers encrypted the data and demanded ransom payments in the Bitcoin currency. And the attack began on 12th of May, and within a day, it was reported to have affected more than 230,000 computers in over 150 countries. So parts of the United Kingdom's National Health Service were infected with up to 70,000 devices, including computers, MRI scanners, and blood storage refrigerators and theatre equipment may have all been affected. So the outcome of this was very severe. It caused to run the services on an emergency-only basis, and some operations had to be cancelled due to the attacks. So this just goes to show the severeness of such cybersecurity incident attacks. So now move on to talk about some targeted cyber attacks. So spear phishing, which is sending emails to targeted individuals that could contain attachment with malicious software or a link that downloads that kind of software. Another targeted example of cyber attacks can be deploying a botnet to deliver a distributed denial of service attack. So this happened to a law firm in London, and they had to shut down their system for several days. A targeted attack can also be to get something within your system. So for example, money and data in Bangladesh Bank was hit with such an attack in order to try and get money from the bank. So the impacts of cybersecurity attacks are really massive. So firstly, it can cause reputational damage. So high-profile incidents can be embarrassing and may lead to the loss of client confidence and a drop in share value. Compromised client information and confidential data can lead to potential personal distress for clients and loss of sensitive company information. It can also be legal implications, so relating to the Data Protection Act or the upcoming General Data Protection Regulation, which is coming into force next year. Regulatory censor or fines, so inadequate controls may lead to large fines or trading restrictions. So under the General Data Protection Regulation, organisations who fall foul to data breaches due to inadequate controls are liable to fines of up to 4% of your annual global turnover or 20 million euros. So again, that shows how much the government are taking this seriously, and you can be faced with such fines. In order to avoid these, it's pretty simple. Can also lead to business disruption. So business as usual may not be possible, leading to immediate financial losses. And lastly, it can be increased operating costs. So the initial costs of dealing with a major cyber incident are estimated to be between 30 to 40,000 in the first 48 hours alone. So I'm going to briefly talk about some key examples I have picked up over the last few months. So firstly, Sony, this is a few years old. This happened on November the 24th in 2014. So culprits spent at least 2 months copying critical files, which then resulted in release of sensitive emails, data destruction, denial of service, reputational damage, and the sacking of the senior executive. And Sony then had to set aside $15 million to deal with ongoing damages from the hack. Again, this shows the severeness of such cyber attacks. They spent so much money trying to recover from it. Lots of people were affected. Also, one of the world's big 4 accountancy firms have been targeted by a sophisticated hack that compromised the confidential emails and plans in some of its blue chip clients. So Deloitte was also the victim of a cybersecurity attack that went unnoticed for months. So Deloitte clients across all sectors had material in the company email system that was breached. And the companies included household names as well as US government departments. So some of the Deloitte's clients had been told that information was impacted by the hack. And Deloitte are doing an internal review of the incident. Equifax is a credit score management company who had a major data breach in the USA and lost a large amount of their customers' sensitive data. One of the interesting alleged facts of the event was that they took a month to tell the public about the breach, but a number of the senior managers sold their shares in the company 3 days after finding out that the breach had happened. So they initially claimed that UK customers were not affected, but then they admitted that a total of 694,000 customers in the UK have had their data stolen. However, as you can see on my screen, they did deal with the aftermath. I wouldn't say pretty well, but they did deal with it. And on their website, they have a section dedicated just for the cybersecurity incident, and you can go there if you feel that you were affected or if you just want any more information on the attack. So after giving a brief introduction to cybersecurity, I'm now going to move on to my second point of my webinar. What can an organisation do to prepare beforehand? So firstly, you need to understand your organisation. So it's very important to understand your organisation, as this can then help protect your organisation from any threats. So these are some key questions that you should seek to answer in order to understand your organisation. So firstly, where are your systems physically based? What software are you running? Is that software being updated? What systems do you have in place and who manages them? Is it managed and supported by third parties, or is it all done by your IT? Are the systems cloud-based or software? If you cut off your systems to the outside world, what would be the impact? So would that impact email, supply chain, and your websites, or would it not be that much of an impact? Where are the alternative data centers and who has access to them? And what is in your existing business continuity plan that can help? So for example, any manual workarounds that will be able to help you recover. As well as understanding your organisation, it's also important to understand the day-to-day operations, as they also play a role in understanding your organisation. So again, some of the key questions that you can ask yourself or your organisation is, does your organisation have a bring your own device policy? So one of the biggest threats of data safety come from bring your own device. In many cases, when staff bring personal devices such as laptops, tablets and smartphones into work, they are not protected by the company's security network, which presents an opportunity for hackers to directly access company data through your devices. It's also important to understand if your organisation is investing in IT. Are they updating software as they should, or are they pretty relaxed about that? Is your equipment in date? And also lastly, what workarounds can be used? For example, pen drives, personal emails, sharing passwords, etc. So in addition to that, it'd also be good to understand laws and guidance. What laws apply to you and your data? So this question is all the more relevant as the GDPR looms on the horizon, one of the single most significant regulations affecting businesses to date. So what standards are you working to? For example, ISO standards such as 27001 or 23001, and are these controls actually being adhered to within the organisation? So now let's move on to discuss key threats within your organisation. Firstly, and I think this is one of the most important points, what do we have within an organisation that others might want? So this can be financial data, or this can be personal information such as customer data. So that goes on to my next point. What data do we hold and who has access to the data? So it can vary to a range of things from intellectual property, negotiating positions, staff data, customer data, and personal information. What is the most embarrassing bit of information we hold? So for example, when Donald Trump and the American elections were hacked into, that was to gain embarrassing information. Do you have data which can be exploited for financial gain? And who has the ability to transact financial fraud? Where are the credit card numbers and bank details? So political data is also a key threat. For example, Russia's cyber attack on the US electoral system. And lastly, commercially sensitive information or intellectual property, such as the leaks of new products. So a really good example of this is, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the TV series Game of Thrones. So a complete unseen episode of Game of Thrones and other shows were released in a massive data breach, and hackers claim to have stolen 1.5 terabytes of data and were threatening to leak even more content if they were not paid. So after discussing the threats, it's important to ask yourself what procedures are in place within your organisation to eliminate any potential threats. Are your company even aware of any of these threats? Security culture is also very vital within any organisation. So what is the current culture in regards to information security? Are top management interested in information security, or is it just always pushed to the back of the list? Have requirements been communicated to all the staff? And what about investment for employee training and for information security? And what previous cyber incidents have occurred and any lessons learned that you can adapt? I want to briefly talk about some questions that the media might ask the CEO, which will be beneficial for your organisation to prepare beforehand. So firstly, the media may ask, was the company data encrypted and had penetration testing been done? How up to date are your systems? 21% of cybersecurity incidents occur due to out-of-date software. Are you working towards any standards, for example, ISO 2001? What is your culture in regards to information security? Have incident management plans been put in place, staff trained, and exercises taken place? Had you identified any possible scenarios, and have requirements been communicated? And have you previously had any incidents or near misses? So these are just some questions that you can have prepared beforehand, because these are some, it's not all the questions that the media may ask, but there are a good few in there that they may be interested in. So now going on to some more key preparations. So firstly, cyber plan. A cybersecurity incident response plan is all about understanding how incidents are identified, along with what, how, when, and why in the event of an incident. The first step in this is to understand your information assets and conduct a BIA, as this will allow you to assess the nature of the incident and get the right people talking and collaborating to resolve it. It is beneficial to have a plan in place, especially when you have to make a decision which involves 2 or 3 different potential outcomes, as this will help your incident team choose one of the options available. So typical examples of questions which can be answered within the plan are: do you switch to your alternative data center, or do you wait until the main ones are backed up or come back up? Do you pay a cyber ransom? But how much of it can you afford? What if you pay and they keep coming back and attacking you because they know you will pay out? And is it even illegal to pay a cyber ransom? When do you need to inform those on your databases that their information has possibly been hacked? Should you inform your clients as soon as you realise, or do you wait? If you have a denial of access attack, do you disconnect your system from the internet? So that's just some of the key things that you can consider to write within your plan. In addition to that, some other things might include who can make the decision and what needs to be done to implement the decision and who needs to do it. You may want to cross-reference any plans at this stage. So another key preparation that many organisations are starting to do now is cyber exercising. You cannot accept to react well if you have not prepared. So when you have a fire drill, you have practiced it so you know where to go. So this should be the same in cybersecurity, and it shouldn't be any different. It is very important and can help you respond better should you have to ever deal with such an incident. So exercising can help you address key questions such as, so for example, phishing emails are now more common, and it is vital to educate employees to practice due diligence, and conducting cybersecurity exercises can be a valuable teaching tool. IT and security teams should be aware when malicious attachments are coming towards your network, and a plan needs to be in place to deal with such an incident. This then needs to be exercised in order for an effective response to limit any damage. Many cyber criminals can pose as employees to gain access to sensitive passwords, and teams should be trained in order to be aware of when sensitive information is wrongly requested and how to deal with such incidents. So exercising cybersecurity scenarios would minimise any damage caused by a cyber attack. Exercising also allows you to assess if your workforce have the correct skills and the relevant job roles to do what they need to do in the event of an incident. So this takes back to my previous point that are you investing in cyber security training for your employees? And also any cybersecurity legal and compliance levels can be tested and improved. Cyber policy is another key aspect in the preparation process. So some things to consider, including in your policy, may be statement of management commitment. As top management who sign off the policy, you know that they have committed to it. The purpose and objectives of the policy. What is the scope of your policy? To whom and what it applies to and under what circumstances? Organisational structure and definition of roles, responsibilities and level of authority. The authority of the incident response team to confiscate or disconnect equipment and to monitor any suspicious activity, and prioritization or severity rating of incidents. So cyber insurance covers a business liability for a data breach in which the organization's customers' personal information, such as credit card numbers, are exposed or stolen by a hacker or other criminal who has gained access to the organization's electric network. So generally, cyber risks fall into first-party and third-party risks. So insurance products exist to cover either or both of these types of risks. And policies generally include significant assistance with and management of the incident itself, which can be essential when faced with reputation damage or enforcement. So cyber insurance, some companies who do it can be British Insurance Brokers Association, Cyber Guru and Hisholk UK. So again, paying like a monthly or an annual fee is sometimes worthwhile, so they can help you cover any business liabilities for any cyber incidents should they occur. So you can also use cyber threat intelligence, as during an investigation into a cyber security incident, it can be very helpful to have access to cyber threat intelligence. So this researches into the attackers to determine their capabilities, motives, and likely actions. And this can be provided by the government or many other organisations, for example, Darktrace, Red Knight, and Surfwatch. So when you're dealing with an incident, you can call in them who will help you, or they can help you beforehand by checking for unusual traffic, and they will give you a heads up. So we have discussed cyber preparations, and now we will go on to discuss my last point of how to respond on the day using our 4-step process. So step 1, you firstly need to identify that a cyber security incident has occurred or is occurring. So how will we know if a cyber event has taken place? What are the routes into finding out? This is really not that simple to find out at times. So alerts generated by technical monitoring systems can help you find out, as well as antivirus software and log analysis. So you can report suspicious events, for example, to the IT help desk by users, and then they can look into it. Or you can report directly to the security team, and again, they can look into it. You can also find out if you've had a disruption to services, or unusual files have been encrypted, or by internal monitoring. So step 2 looks at defining objectives and investigating the situation. So what are we doing? So once a cybersecurity incident has been identified, the next stage is to define what the objectives are for the response activities and to investigate the situation in an appropriate manner. So firstly, you need to understand the cyber incident. So is it a random or a specific attack? You need to classify it. So is it critical, significant, normal, and negligible impact before prioritising it? So is it high, medium, or low? And then you would need to carry out a first response and perform an initial analysis of the incident in order to investigate it further. So there are many questions that can be asked during this investigation step. So who has attacked us? What is the scope and extent of the attack? When did the attack occur? And what did the attackers take from us? Have they took valuable information? Have they took bank details? And why did they do it? You need to try and find out their motive. Did they do it for money? Did they do it for publicity? Project research has revealed that the 3 main challenges organisations face when responding to a cybersecurity incident in a fast, effective and consistent manner are determining what information has been disclosed to unauthorised parties, stolen, deleted or corrupted, finding out who did it and why they did it, and identifying what systems, networks and information have been compromised. So this step is, I would say, one of the most hardest steps in order to investigate why it happened. You need to consider a lot of information here and it does take a lot of time. So other challenges around this step may be working out how it happened, how did the attacker gain entry to the system, determining the potential business impact of this cybersecurity incident, and performing a detailed analysis of the cybersecurity incident. So during this stage, you should try and learn as much as you can about the attackers, as they will often require different response approaches and capabilities. And again, this would be useful to include in your plan. So step 3, take appropriate action. At this point, you do something. So you need to contain the cybersecurity incident, and communication is key here, which we will just touch upon. So how do you stop the incident from progressing and from getting worse? So you need to eradicate the cause of the incident. And to do that, you need to get to the bottom of the cause, which will be step 2, and see if that can be solved. You'll also need to gather and preserve evidence, and you might need the evidence also to take legal action. Communication is key here, so it would be really useful to devise a communication strategy for this incident, which covers some key issues such as who do you need to communicate to, who are the audience. In a cyber incident, is the CEO the best person to be the organisation spokesperson, or is it better to have an alternative spokesperson? With an alternative spokesperson, there is an ability to escape the communication response to a more senior manager if required. And also, as part of the communication strategy, are you going to decide to portray yourself as the victim or the villain? So are you an incident victim who's been hacked, or was your IT security relaxed and therefore you are the villain for not protecting your information? Have you practiced your senior management team's ability to make decisions? Does your senior management team know the answers to the likely questions the media are going to ask in a cyber incident? And again, I touched on that previously. How can you demonstrate to customers, regulators, and stakeholders you have taken appropriate measure to protect yourself? So you should consider certifying yourself to ISO 27001 or Cyber Essentials Plus. And again, communications is very important because you don't want to communicate too early on. So you might think, oh, I've been breached, but upon further investigation, you find out, nope, you've actually not been breached. So do you communicate as soon as you think they've been breached? But then that can cause your customers or stakeholders to, lose trust in your organisation. But if you do it too late, again, they can lose trust again. So it's trying to find that right balance and actually finding out when do you communicate. So lastly, the last step is recovery. So you would respond as appropriate here. So you establish the facts, what, where, when, why, and you've stabilised the situation, preventing it getting any worse. And you might need to get forensics on site, for example, cyber threat intelligence. You need to find out how they got access. You might involve the police at this stage or other regulatory bodies you may need to inform. You may take your systems offline or try and work without IT and assess if any manual workarounds are in place. So in order to follow up a cybersecurity incident, consider your need to investigate the incident more thoroughly, report the incident to relevant stakeholders, carry out a post-incident review and build on lessons learned, and update key information, controls and processes. So just talk about some follow-up steps you can take. So investigate the incident, report the incident to relevant stakeholders, and perform a trend analysis. I would also recommend having a read at the CREST Cybersecurity Incident Response Guide, which you can find online. It is a very good guide about cybersecurity and it is free. So reporting cybersecurity incidents. So these are some companies who you may report any incidents to. So you've got the National Cybersecurity Centre, Financial Conduct Authority, Action Fraud, National Crime Agency, and under the GDPR, you would need to report to them from next year within 3 days. So just to summarise the key points I've covered today. Firstly, I gave a brief background of cybersecurity. I then discussed what preparation an organisation can do beforehand, before concluding how to respond to a cybersecurity incident on the day using the 4-step process. So understanding your organisation and all the key threats is really, really important in order to try and eliminate any threats. And ensure you respond effectively on the day and use that 4-step process I have discussed will most definitely help you. And I hope you all got an insight into cybersecurity and can take away key lessons which will be useful to your organisation. So thank you so much for listening, and PlanB Consulting offers cyber training, exercises and plan development, and you can find out more about us by visiting our website, or you can send me an email should you wish to need any more information. I would now like to answer any questions you may have.
So, Sadia, have you got the questions in front of you to answer?
Nobody's asked a question, so just if anybody has any questions. Oh, sorry, I can see one now. So firstly, Russian ads on Facebook and similar sites that are meant to influence thoughts and emotions during the US elections, can this be considered a cyber attack? That is a very good question. And to be honest, this is not a question that I'm able to answer at the top of my head. I would be more than happy to, go away and think about it, and maybe we could take this offline if you send me an email.
Okay, that's great, Sadia. That was really interesting. Thank you. I think what we'll do is we will close it off now. And the guys here in the office have particularly enjoyed listening to your words of wisdom today. It's been really good, so thank you for that. I hope everyone out there in the around the world have enjoyed it as much as we did. So thank you to Sadia, and thank you to all those that attended, listened in, and asked a couple of questions. So that's great. Thank you. We'll be sending out a copy of the webinar as today's bulletin, in case you missed it and any of the content covered. If you have any feedback on this webinar or any topics that you would like to be covered in future webinars, please just reply to any of the emails you have received from us. As I mentioned at the beginning, this month you can receive 20% off our next Managing and Preparing for Cyber Incidents course, if booked by 31st of October. If you'd like any more information, please visit our website or get in touch with the team via phone or email. Once again, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you.